betray you. This is not an assumption. It's not a possibility, it's a certainty. And the sooner you accept it, the sooner you will stop living like a victim.
Do you want to know why? Because human beings are by nature profoundly selfish. And no, I'm not referring to that childish selfishness of not sharing a piece of cake. I'm talking about an ancestral, wild, instinctive selfishness programmed thousands of years ago to prioritize one's own survival over any loyalty. You think that betrayal is an exception, that it's something that happens when something breaks. You're wrong. Betrayal is the norm. Loyalty the exception, and Nietzsche knew it. He shouted it between the lines on every page. Don't trust the mask of civilization we all wear. Behind it there are teeth, and they are sharp. Have you been betrayed? Welcome. Are you waiting for a logical, emotional, or spiritual explanation? You won't find it, because betrayal doesn't come from reasoning. It comes from fear, it comes from desire, it comes from an internal need that weighs more than any promise someone made to you. Do you want to know the truth? Here it is. They didn't betray you because you did something wrong. They betrayed you because it suited them to do so, and that's all. Most people don't betray you out of evil. They betray you out of convenience, because at a certain moment, you stopped being useful because another person offered more. Because their fear of losing was greater than their loyalty towards you. It's not personal, it's worse. It's structural, it's in the foundation of how the human mind works. And yet, you keep being surprised. You placed your trust as if the world were made of principles, morals, ethics. But the world is made of interests. Loyalty is a luxury, and few can afford it. Want some brutal advice? Never expect someone to act in your favor if that goes against theirs, because the day their interests clash with your well-being, they're going to crush you, and they won't even feel guilty, because the human mind is an expert at justifying what it does. They are going to betray you, they are going to turn their back on you, and on top of that, they are going to convince themselves they did the right thing. They'll tell you they had no choice, that it was an accident, that they didn't want to hurt you, and the worst part is that they believe it. They tell themselves that story to sleep at night. But you are the one carrying the ruins. Let me make it clearer. If you're waiting for the world to be fair with you, just because you are fair with others, you're on the direct path to becoming a martyr. No one is going to return the favor for being a good person. No one is going to respect your principles if they don't align with their desires. And then comes the question that hurts the most. Why did that person betray me? The answer is simple: because they could. Because there were no consequences. Because it was cheap for them. And here comes the first psychological blow. People are only as loyal as you make them be. You think loyalty comes from love, from affection, from the shared history. Loyalty comes from the fear of losing something. A relationship, a privilege, a position, a status. When someone betrays you without thinking twice, what they are telling you is this: you weren't that important. Or at least not as much as what they got in return. And that hurts more than the betrayal itself. Because it reveals something you don't want to see. You overvalued your place in their life. Nietzsche said it's not the lack of love, but the lack of friendship that makes marriages unhappy. Change marriages for any relationship. There's the key. People fail you because they were never truly with you. They were with the idea of you, with what they could get from you, with the version that was comfortable for them. But as soon as that version changes, they vanish. They look you in the eyes. They tell you that you can trust them, that they'll be there for you. But what they don't say aloud is the implicit condition: as long as it doesn't cost me anything. Have you noticed how at the hardest moment in your life, most people disappear? It's because true loyalty has a price. It requires sacrifice, and most aren't willing to pay that price. They prefer to make excuses, to tell themselves that you've changed, that you're not the same anymore, that now you're toxic negative, demanding whatever it takes to justify their absence. And here's another punch of reality. Betrayal doesn't hurt because of what we lose, but because of what it reveals. It reveals who we were in that relationship. Naive, idealistic, blind, dedicated. And it reveals who they were: opportunists, self-interested, unstable cowards. The most terrifying part of betrayal isn't the betrayal itself. It's the revelation that everything you believed was a lie. And that's when the paranoia starts. You begin to look at everyone with suspicion. You don't know who is who anymore. Because if that person, the one you trusted blindly, was capable of stabbing you in the back, what won't the others be capable of? You're filled with distrust, and with it loneliness. But here's the part no one tells you. Loneliness at this point is a privilege. Because after a real deep, brutal betrayal, you can't afford to stay surrounded by wolves in disguise. Betrayal is a purge, a painful cleansing, a necessary cut, and yes, it hurts because you still love that person. You still remember what they were. You still wish they would come back. But what you're wishing for isn't the person. It's the illusion, and that illusion is destroying you. You have to let it go. Nietzsche made it clear. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But here's the twist: only if you understand it. Because if you don't understand it, what doesn't kill you leaves you broken, bitter, distrustful. Not stronger, just more closed. Do you want to use betrayal to grow? Then stop idealizing, stop justifying. Stop romanticizing the damage. Accept that human beings have an infinite capacity to fail, that no one is exempt, that even you at some point have been the betrayer in someone else's story. Betrayal is in everyone, but so is the decision of who you'll allow to hurt you more than once. If they betray you once, it's their fault. If they do it twice, it's your fault. Because here's the rule no one wants to accept. Your responsibility isn't to prevent being betrayed. Your responsibility is to not allow it to happen again. And that's only achieved in one way: by stopping idealizing. Look at people as they are, not as you want them to be. Ask uncomfortable questions. Watch their actions when no one is watching. Listen to how they talk about others, because that's how they'll talk about you when you're not around. And above all, learn to disappear when someone betrays you. Don't explain, don't beg. Don't seek revenge. Don't try to understand with logic something that came from cowardice. Disappear. The most brutal punishment for a traitor is your absence. Silence the void, because traitors don't expect real consequences. They expect drama, they expect tears. They expect attention. Give them what they don't expect. Nothing, and build from the pain, from the rage, from the abyss. Make that betrayal a platform, not to prove anything to them, but to remind yourself that you're alive, that you're awake, that you don't need anyone who doesn't know how to hold their word. Remember, this betrayal reveals, but it doesn't define. You are not what they did to you. You are what you do with what they did to you. And if you manage to look betrayal in the eyes without becoming what you hate, then you will have won, because they're in the middle of the fire. In the silence of abandonment, those who don't need anyone to be invincible are forged. And you know what the most fucked up part of all this is? That when someone betrays you, they don't just break your trust in them. They also break the image you had of yourself. Because if that person, the one in whom you poured your affection, your time, your secrets, was capable of destroying you without blinking, what does that say about you? About your ability to judge, about your judgment, about your worth. Betrayal has two sides, one that points to the other and one that drives you inward. Because when someone betrays you, you don't just think that person failed me. You think something much more dangerous. I was naive enough to believe they wouldn't do it. And that thought, that one, is the one that breaks you inside. Because it makes you doubt yourself, your ability to see reality. It makes you question everything. It paralyzes you, and here comes the most devastating part. Betrayal many times doesn't destroy relationships. It destroys identities. Your identity was tied to that person, to that story, to that trust. And when all of that crumbles, you're left without a base. You lose your footing. You don't know who you are, because you can't see yourself with the same eyes anymore. You can't even trust your intuition anymore. Do you feel it? Betrayal is an internal fracture. It doesn't stay in the fact. It settles in how you see yourself. It becomes an echo, a constant doubt, a wound that's no longer in the skin, but in the perception. And the worst part is that you learn to live with it. You learn to distrust everyone, to not show too much, to not give everything, to live halfway, believing that it protects you. But in reality, it only traps you. Do you know what betrayal does? It transforms you into what you swore you would never be. It makes you cold, calculating. It gives you an armor. But that armor, which you think protects you, also prevents you from feeling. It prevents you from connecting. It prevents you from creating something real. Betrayal leaves you with a scar so deep that if you're not careful, it turns you into a traitor too. Because when you don't trust anyone anymore, when everything seems like a risk, when you live anticipating the next stab in the back, you end up betraying to your essence your empathy, your ability to trust. It's the perfect cycle of trauma. I was hurt, so now I protect myself by hurting first. They won't betray me again, because I won't give them anything they can use against me. But there you are, alone, armed to the teeth and empty inside. And here comes something even darker. Self-deception after being betrayed. Your brain goes into survival mode, and one of its most subtle strategies is rewriting the story. You repeat to yourself it wasn't that important, that you saw it coming, that it didn't hurt that much, that it was for the best. But all of that is a lie. You do it so you don't break more. And I get it, we've all done it. But it's a slow poison, because the more you repress the pain, the more disconnected from yourself you become. You start creating false versions of yourself, strong versions which are actually broken inside, versions that smile while they bleed, that say I don't care while they crumble in silence. Do you want to know what nature would think of that? That you're drifting away from your true self, that you're repressing your will to power, that you're denying your own humanity out of fear of pain. Because betrayal forces you to choose. Either you destroy yourself or you transform. And here comes a brutal truth. You can't avoid being betrayed, but you can decide what to do with the wound. You can let it rot inside you, or you can use it as a mirror, one that shows you who you were in that relationship, what you ignored, what you tolerated, what part of you sold to keep something that was already broken. And I know it sounds cruel, but there's a part of you that allowed that betrayal. You didn't cause it, but you tolerated it because at some level, we all know who we are with. The problem is we play blind when it suits us. You cling to false signals. You ignore the red flags. You justify toxic behavior because the need for connection, affection, belonging weighs more than the instinct to protect yourself. Until one day it explodes. And there you are, left with the pieces of a truth you didn't want to see. And then the deepest fear arrives. What if I can't trust anyone again? It's not just the other person. It's the world. It's the structure. It's the invisible fabric of all your relationships. You feel that everything is contaminated, that loyalty no longer exists, But that's not true. Betrayal makes you see the world as a battlefield. But the truth is subtler. Not everyone is going to fail you, but you do need to learn to look with new eyes. Look at what people do, not what they say. See how they treat those who can't give them anything back. Notice how they behave when no one's watching, because that's where the truth is, in the invisible. And yes, you will have to let go of many relationships. You'll have to be alone for a while. You'll have to rebuild your judgment from scratch. But that's the only way to get back to yourself, because in the end, betrayal isn't overcome with rage. It's overcome with reconstruction. Rebuild yourself, redefine your perception. Redefine your limits, heal your identity. And when you do that, then, and only then, can you trust again. Not like before, blindly, but with strength, with clarity, with filters, with open eyes. Don't let betrayal define your story, but don't ignore it either. Don't cover the pain with noise. Don't pretend it didn't mark you, because if you do, you're condemning yourself to repeat it. Observe it, study it, learn, and then rise wiser. Colder, more selective, but never empty. Let's dive even deeper into the darkness of this topic. We've already talked about the psychological impact, the wounded ego, and the reconstruction. Now, let's shift the focus and look at an even more disturbing phenomenon. Silent betrayal, the one that isn't noticeable at first glance, but that eats you from within. The one that isn't an act, but an absence and omission. An invisible abandonment, because listen to me carefully. Not all betrayals come with a dagger. Some come disguised as indifference, as silence, as emotional distance. And those are the most lethal. Because you prepare for the classic betrayal. The obvious one, the one that comes with conflict, with shouting, with rupture. But you're not prepared for passive betrayal. For that person who, when you needed them the most, simply wasn't there, who didn't stab you, but just watched as others did. Who didn't talk badly about you, but stayed silent while everyone else did. Who didn't actively fail you, but stopped caring for you when you needed it the most. And here's the question that rips your soul. Who failed you more? The one who betrayed you, or the one who didn't defend you? That silence, that absence, that neutrality disguised as, I don't want to get involved. That's the betrayal that does the most damage, because it leaves you speechless. Because you can't point it out. You can't accuse it, there's no evidence. Just a visceral feeling. Someone who should have been here wasn't. And the saddest part is that sometimes that person keeps telling you they love you, that they respect you, that they value you. But they do it from afar, with hollow words, with lukewarm gestures, as if just saying they're there while they're not. And do you know what really hurts about this silent betrayal? That it forces you to admit you were more alone than you thought, that the web you thought you had was just an illusion. And here comes another brutal theme: betrayal as disillusionment. Because when someone betrays you, it's not just the act that hurts. It's the collapse of an expectation, of a narrative, of a story you had built in your head. You had told yourself that person was different, that they wouldn't do it with you, that you were special, and that story was false. You realize it wasn't a relationship between two people. It was a relationship between you and the idea you had of that person. And that opens the next crack. You begin to distrust your ability to see reality. You no longer know if someone is loyal or if you just need them to be. You start projecting betrayal even where there is none, because now your brain operates with a new algorithm. Better prevent than bleed again. But living like this is not living. It's surviving. It's building walls so high that even you can't get out of them. And here comes the point that no one dares touch. Sometimes the real traitor is you. With yourself, because you knew deep down. You knew there were signs. There were inconsistencies. There were uncomfortable silences. But you didn't want to see them. You preferred to stay silent, endure, adjust. Because the fear of losing that relationship was greater than yourself. Love, and that's the hardest betrayal to admit. The one you inflicted on yourself. And do you know why you did it? Because you were addicted to hope, to fantasy, to the idea that if you gave your best, the other would value it. But that's false. Not everyone knows how to receive. Not everyone knows how to see the value. There are people who, no matter how much you fill them with love, will always be thirsty. Because their loyalty doesn't depend on your giving. It depends on their emptiness. And there it is, the next point. There are people who betray not because you failed, but because their soul is broken. And that is not your responsibility. You have to understand it. There are people who don't know how to sustain anything healthy. That when they see something real, they sabotage it because it scares them. Because it's foreign to them. Because they don't know how to handle the real. They are so used to chaos that when they find something stable, they destroy it, not out of malice, but out of trauma, out of programming, out of emotional misery. And you were there thinking you could save them, heal them, teach them. But you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. You can't sustain a relationship with someone who is used to throwing everything overboard once it starts to work. And the worst part is that when they betray you, they don't even see it as betrayal. They'll tell you that you suffocated them, that they didn't feel themselves, that they needed space, that they weren't ready. And you'll be left there with your soul shattered while they keep going on as if nothing happened. Because yes, there are people who can betray you and sleep like a baby. Why? Because they don't feel what you feel. Because they don't have the same code. Because for them loyalty is a word, not a commitment. And that's where you have to make a break, a rupture, a reset. Because if you don't do it, you'll keep attracting the same type of people. People who only want you when you're quiet, when you don't demand, when you don't shine too brightly. And that's another form of betrayal. Betraying yourself to fit in. Do you know how many times you've dimmed yourself to avoid discomfort? How many times you've hidden your strength, your talent, your ambition to not make others feel insecure? How many times you've allowed them to invalidate you, to minimize you, to ignore you, just to not seem too much? That's also betrayal, but one that goes from you to you. And Nietzsche said it brutally. Man suffers so terribly in the world that he has been forced to invent laughter. And I tell you this, we suffer so much from betrayal that we've learned to call them experiences, lessons, things that happen. But know some things shouldn't happen. And when they do, they need to be named for what they are. Betrayal, period. Don't put makeup on it, don't edit it. Don't justify it, name it. Because only when you name it, you can heal it, and above all, you can decide. Decide not to put your soul in the hands of someone who doesn't even know how to hold theirs. Decide not to lower yourself to fit in. Decide that you prefer to be alone than badly accompanied and mistreated. Because here comes one of the most uncomfortable truths. Most people don't want someone strong. They want someone manageable. And if you decide to be free, authentic, unstoppable, get ready, because they're going to try to betray you. Not because you're weak, but because your strength confronts them. It shows them everything they're too afraid to be. And that's when you'll know that you're no longer the victim. You're the threat. Betrayal doesn't just reveal who others are. It reveals you. It shows you your ability to rise, to harden without becoming cruel, to trust again, but without blindness, to love without giving up your dignity. Because in the end, that's what saves you. It's not that they stop betraying you. It's that you learn not to let betrayal steal what you are. And that's power. And now that we've reached this point, I'm going to tell you something that perhaps no one has dared to tell you in your whole life. Betrayal is the baptism of the strong. Yes, it hurts. It breaks you. It empties you. But it also reveals you. It initiates you. It rips the veil from your eyes once and for all, because before betrayal, you were just an edited version of yourself. Someone who still believed in stories, in eternal promises and unbreakable bonds. But after, you're naked alone. Raw, but real, and that, as screwed up as it sounds, is the beginning of everything. Because the person who is reborn after being betrayed is not the same as the one who fell. They are someone who no longer needs external mirrors to define themselves, someone who no longer sells themselves for a little affection, who no longer confuses company with connection, attention with love, silence with peace. Betrayal is an alchemy. It takes your naivety and melts it down into wisdom. It takes your wound, and if you dare to look it in the face, it gives you something that can't be bought or taught: vision. Do you know what someone who has seen betrayal in all its forms and survived does? They don't become paranoid. They become selective. They no longer seek to fit in everywhere because they understood that not every place deserves their presence. They no longer beg for loyalty because they understood that real loyalty is silent. It doesn't need promises. Betrayal, if you know how to read it, shows you who deserves to see you up close and who was just with you for convenience. And that's why what seemed like a curse was a purification. And if you've made it this far, there's something inside you that knows it, that something changed, that something reordered itself, that you can't look at the world the same anymore, neither others nor yourself, because you're not the same person who started watching this video. And that is priceless. So listen carefully the next time someone fails you. Don't react like before. Don't beg for explanations. Don't give speeches. Don't threaten to leave. Don't cry in front of someone who doesn't have a soul to console you. Just leave without noise, without announcements, without stepping back, because betrayal is only lethal to the one who doesn't know how to leave. And if you want a sign to leave behind everything that no longer respects you, this is it. This is the sign. This is your permission, your silent scream. Your farewell to what made you small. Now it's your turn. It's time for you to be the person who doesn't need applause to move, who doesn't seek redemption from those who have no soul to offer it, who doesn't ask for justice from those who already live in debt with their conscience. And if you've made it this far, it wasn't a coincidence. This video wasn't entertainment. It was a mirror, a detonation, a ritual. Now you choose what to do with what you saw. But if you feel like this touched you, like it stirred something inside you that you've been burying for a long time, then do one thing. Subscribe. Because this channel isn't for everyone. It's for those who are ready to break their masks, their excuses, their limits. And if you want to leave your mark, leave a comment with this phrase: I am no longer the person I was when this video started. That way I'll know you're one of those who have awakened. See you in the next one. But remember, the next time they betray you, the next time they underestimate you, the next time they ignore you, make sure they don't find you in the same place. Disappear from where they don't value you and appear where no one expected you. That's where true power begins. And you've just crossed the door. Welcome. Or better yet, welcome back to yourself. See you in the shadows.